if you get a job offer, what's the first thing that you're going to do? And the final answer was reject the first job offer. In terms of, if you counter, when I say that, I shouldn't say reject, I should say counter. When you counter this job offer, you want to counter with some things that you actually want and need. So I also have a link here that you all can go and check out, but here is the link. It was one that I did with Greg over at Blacks in Technology, and I think it may be an hour or 2 hours long. I did it with gosh, don't uh, get me going on the wrong name, Ayori. I don't know why I wanted to call her Sunny, but yes, Ayori. So check that out. So what you have here is a company that I spoke with on um, a salary for a job here recently. So let's go over here to and ask. And dash ask. So here's the company. All right. So one of the things that I've learned
Sam,
is
we can't see the screen.
how do you quantify your skill set? All right. So that's really a good question, because if you ask someone who's
Sam,
a
can you hear me?
entrepreneur, they'll tell you you'll never get really paid what you're worth, and so forth and so on. And then the flip side of that, you as the person who is working, you say you'll never really earn what you're worth. Oh, you can't see the screen. Oh, hold on. There you go. All right. So, um, with that being said, I want you all to take a pen and paper, or a mental note or whatever, and write down exactly your must-haves when you start looking for jobs, like what you must have. Like, must you have an education stipend? Most companies give out a $5,000 education stipend. Some companies don't even give out education stipends. Um, 5,000 is usually the going. It's really like 5,280, because that's what you can. I think that's what you can claim back to the government as what you provided, and then get a tax write off. The other is, some companies have partnerships with, say, a Linux Academy or Microsoft or CBT Nuggets or Pluralsight or something of that nature. So you'll get that, you know, as a kickback for your continuing education, or they'll pay for it. I know at my last company, what I would do is I would look at, like, how much is Linux Academy or Pluralsight going to cost me, and then I would use that as a form of, like, hey, you have to pay me back for X, Y, and Z for this, because that's part of my education benefits. The other thing to look at too is gym membership. Uh, at my last company, they would pay for your BJ's or your um, Walmart, not Walmart, was it Sam's yearly subscription. So there's things there. I've seen people get their daycare taken care of, private school, car, um, a travel stipend. Some companies, uh, they know that you have to work remotely at certain jobs, so they take care of all your travel. So you have maybe a corporate card that gets issued to you, and you charge that corporate card for travel to whatever site location. And then there is this, um, per diem. So GSA per diem. So depending on, I think the way it works is what is ever considered your, I think it's whatever's considered your working location is what they pay for on a per diem, not in terms of where you reside. So for now, I reside in Fairfax, Virginia. So how per diem works is, and it changes, as you can see, it changes throughout the year. So in January of 2018 was 201, 201, and then March and May through June is 253, and then it drops back down in July and August, and then picks back up in September. And then let me see, where's October here, and then November and December. So how this works is it's per diem, but you get it's tax free. So this is based upon your lodging. You also get rates for your meal breakdown as well too, um, and travel in terms of going to the airport and coming from the airport. That's mileage rates and so forth. So let's just say, in all for all intents purposes, let's just do the highest one, 253. And then there is approximately 2080. That's not right. It's 261 days, working days. Let's do that. 253 times 261 working days. So it's 66,000 tax free. And actually, it comes out to more than that. My math may be off. I may be calculating wrong, but for all intents and purposes, let's just go with the 66,000 tax free, and that money goes to your pocket. I didn't include the meals because some people don't include those. Some people won't pay for your meals, and then some people will. It's kind of company dependent. All right. So that's an add-on bonus. When do you get that? Well, you get that if you decide to be a 1099 versus W2. So with W2, you don't get that. So what ends up happening is, if you're 1099, and my suggestion is for everyone is to do a solo 401k with Vanguard. And I'm gonna get back into the negotiating in a minute, but just bear with me. So here with the solo 401k, you can go as an employee and as an employer, because now you're a LLC. My best suggestion is to find a CPA, because that's, I've been studying this forever, reading through this, what's going to be the best move and so forth. So, but I know you can go as an employee and you can go as an employer because you are now a LLC. What advantage does that have? Well, the advantage is, as you can see here, the maximum employer contribution per eligible employee is 54,000. But then if you can go in as the employee as well, you can get that extra 18,000 that you can put into your 401k. And remember, when you're doing this, you probably want to try to do this at 25% vested into your own 401k. I hope that makes sense for everybody. Does anybody have questions about this? Okay. So why I say that is, okay, Amber, what's your question? You can talk out loud too, by the way.
You kept saying something about
I'll
a
wait till you type.
LLC.
But in terms of this, is when you are going into most companies and you are looking at their 401k, it's usually anywhere from 4% to 6% match, or what have you. So usually you'll find companies, like it's some companies that are do 15% into your 401k automatically without you touching anything, and then they'll do 4% and then they'll match, or they'll do 6% and then they're a match. But then there's always a cap on it. So with this setup, you had the advantage of put more into your 401k to try to cut back on how much is getting taken out for your taxes. All right. So what I want to show you is this. This is actually an old job offer from the company I work for in Florida. As you can see, they automatically put 25% into your 401k. So basically, every year, and this increases with your income as well too. When you get your pay raise, so you automatically get 25% put into your 401k. So that meant initially when I first started out, I was going to get $33,000 annually. Well, how can they do that annually? Because it's on a fiscal year. So they'll do it one distribution, one part of the year, and then in January or February, you'll get the other distribution because it's over a fiscal year. So what things can you negotiate for? And here's where it comes into play. All right, so negotiating for your more put into your 401k probably won't happen, maybe, but most of them have a set standard. If they do 4%, they do 4%. If they do 6%, they do 6%. But what other things you can get is you can get your school paid for, or you can get some kind. And I don't always go with, like, I don't like the fact that you have to pay out of pocket and then they reimburse you, because what if it's $30,000 for the school, and when would you ever come up with that money? Or just you're just always out of pocket. So I like to get that stuff paid up front. Amber, I see your LLC. I'm gonna have Dion uh, put that up there for you. In terms of other things to negotiate for, is your time off. So time off. So what I've seen is, okay, you come into most companies, they give you what, 3 weeks and then maybe 10 or 12 federal holidays. Well, you can always negotiate and say, you know what? I don't want 3 weeks. I just need 2 weeks, because you may not be a person that travel all the time. All right. So you could come back and say, well, give me 2 weeks of time off and take 1 week and calculate how much that week would be for in terms of time off, in terms of money, and then tell them to add that to your salary. That's another tactic. Another thing you can negotiate for is to and from work. So maybe they have a bus pass or a metro pass, or maybe you Uber or something of that nature. I've seen in some job descriptions where they pay for Uber for you to go back and forth. Well, it depends. You can be hired as an employee and still get these same things. It's just a matter of what you can put out there to negotiate. So even as a contractor, uh, as a contractor, you can do the 401k to yourself as a contractor. But if you're going in as a W-2 and they have a plan set up, most likely they won't negotiate on the 401k. So that's why I say it's up to you on how you want to do. But I gave you some steps of things to protect yourself if you do go in as a contractor. So what else should you be looking at when you're looking at doing negotiating? The other thing that you should be looking at is not just what's important to you, but what's going to be something you can use once you leave that job. If you are going in with the mindset of, I'm going to be here for 10 years, please understand that 9 times out of 10, you're only going to see anywhere from 2 to 3% pay increase every year. The most I've seen is probably maybe 5%. So that's just something to think about. Think about when you walk into the door, you're how much do you need in order not just to survive, but to save up. That's one. How much do you need in order to go back and forth to work? Where's the location of the job? Something you got to consider as well. The wear and tear on your car, the wear and tear on your body, just being in the car for 2, 3 hours. Uh, sleep. These are things that you don't think about as you're doing negotiating, but these are things that you should be thinking about as you do negotiating, and why you're choosing that job and why you're choosing that company. Right now, I think Microsoft has really, really good benefits. Everybody always talks about Microsoft and their benefits, like their package is really nice, because they have another thing is maternity leave and paternity leave. Something else to consider. At this job at LTC, when I was there, we didn't get maternity leave, so your PTO went towards was your maternity leave. But here's the flip side of that. The flip side of that was every month when I first started out, I was earning 30 hours a month. At the end of it, I was earning 50 hours a month. So you're talking about some people that were there longer than me were probably getting 15 to 20 weeks a month in time off. So the way that worked was at the end of the year, you only had 100 hours that you could roll over. So then you had to say, okay, well, give me that in cash back. So you take the hour, how much you make an hour, and multiply that by how much time you have in your time off, and that's a nice paycheck come February or March to pay that out. Is how they did it. So the other thing, it just slipped my mind. Uh, Not just time off, not vacation, maternity, uh, Costco, BJ's, Walmart, or Sam's. It was that's what it was. Stocks. So let's talk about this. Oh, and let's talk about stocks. And let me write this down. Stocks, and let's talk about bonuses. Stocks and bonuses. All right, let's start with stocks. Okay, so here's the thing. All right, so you'll get a company, they'll offer you a salary, and they'll say, okay, here's the salary and the base salary, and then here's a sign-on bonus of maybe $5,000 or $10,000. And please remember that $5,000 or $10,000 is tax 70%. So that $5,000 that you get in the world that you think you're getting is actually that. So it's not $5,000; it's $3,500 once your uncle gets his share. So remember that. So how they do it a lot of times is they'll give you a base salary of 144,000. No, that's right. And then they'll say, well, we'll give you 5,000 bonus. And then they'll say, we got stocks for you. But here's the catch to that. Sometimes your stocks are not vested until after you've been there a year or after you've been there 4 years. You have to read the fine line. So really, when they say your value is, they say they give you $40,000 in stocks, they're saying that your total is 185. Well, really, it's not 185. Why? Because that $3,500 or that $5,000 bonus that you got is a one-time deal, right? And then that those stocks, if they have to be vested over 4 years, and if you leave before those 4 years, you don't get that money, and you don't see it every month or every 2 weeks in your paycheck. So really, what you're seeing in your paycheck is this 144,000, and you take that, multiply that by 7. That's where you're getting. Multiply, divide that. Let's say it is 26 pay periods in a year. Divided by 26. So come out about 3769. So give or take about $3,800 every 2 weeks. And I can see. Let's go back and multiply that by 26, and let's divide by 12. So about 8,200 a month is what you'll be seeing. So when you look at your job offer, just don't get duped by the sign-on bonus of blah 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 blah. unless you got something that you need to pay off, unless you got some type of move that you got to take care of, or somebody, or they're paying for your move and they're giving you a sign on bonus. Now we're going to give you money, and then you take that money and move out of that money, because the minimum cost to move across country on a move is $10,000. I can give you that. Move 17 times, I can tell you that. That's minimum. And that's you helping pack up some stuff as well too. The next thing is the bonus. So bonuses come in different forms. Bonuses can come with, hey, every when you come on, we're gonna give you a sign on bonus, or they may come every quarter, or they may come twice a year. So what ends up happening in those situations is, say someone gives you 20% of your salary for a bonus. Let's multiply that by 0.2, and they say they give it twice a. They're gonna give that. A, they're gonna give that twice a year. So remember now, it's 28,000 for the whole year, and then they're gonna give you 14,000 over. I mean, over two times over the year. So remember that 14,000 gets some money cut off. So basically, you uh 9,800 is what you'll be really getting after they take out taxes. But the way they do it is they'll say 140,000 plus 28,000, and they'll say that's what your total is. And that's given out twice a year. Remember that bonus is given out twice a year, and it's taxed as well too. So these are just things to keep in mind when you're talking about negotiating for your salary. These are things to keep in mind when you're talking about negotiating for things that you may want and things that you may need. I'm going to open up right now for questions or anything of that nature, or something you may want to add that I might have missed. Feel free to say what it is that you want to say.
What about healthcare? What is it looking like
Nothing?
right now?
Nobody? Everybody got it down pat? I can't, let me see. I can't hear anyone. So, healthcare, it depends on the job. Some jobs, again, they already have things set up already. But they may do 100% dental, 100% medical, 100% whatever. Or in this case, with this particular job, this is how they set it up. It was with Aetna. They have three different plans. You get a chance to choose from those plans, and then here's how much each one was going to cost you, and then your personal sick holidays, so forth and so on, and then yeah, oh yeah, and then an amount of 100 hours plus 500 will be rollover. This right here is like a standard right here when you got something set up like this. So how is a company able to do this? Here's another benefit too. Um, small companies. Small companies can do these things, whereas a large company, they get discounts uh, on different stuff, right? So the more people in the group, the better it is on a discount for them. But what ends up hurting is you don't get the flexibility in benefits. So again, benefits, maybe you get a small enough company where they're paying 100% medical, 100% dental, they're paying for everything, they're doing anywhere from 6 to 25% into your 401k. They're giving you a stipend in terms of your a laptop, or they're giving you a stipend in terms of education, and they're also giving you money to go to a conference. And that's another thing to negotiate, is being the ability to travel and go to conferences. Most of your connections and so forth are going to come from being able to go to the conferences and network, and also being able to speak at the conferences and getting those things taken care of too. So it's really like when you're negotiating, it's really sit down, take a pen and paper, read through that offer and write down everything that you like about it and things you wish you had, and then go back to them and ask. You won't know until you ask. Like, it's just that simple. See, it depends on the company. Most of the time, it's with changing the job itself. So, and that's and I kind of alluded to this last week. Um, but the question becomes is, when you leave the company that you're currently at, has, and I say this with full conviction of, make sure you skill up while you're at a company. If you walk in the door with some skills and you walk out the door with those same some skills, and then you try to go to another company, you might could get away with that, but you're probably gonna miss out on probably 10 to 20,000. So in the contracting world, for every $5 there's $10,000. Okay, so if I offered you a job that pays 90 an hour, and somebody calls you up and say, hey, we're going to pay you 95 an hour, it's not worth your time. But if a job calls you up for 90 an hour, and then they swing back through and say, a new job calls up and say, okay, well, you know what, we're going to beat that and we're going to pay you 110 an hour. It's potato worth entertaining, yes, but if they can pay you 110, they probably can pay you 115, 120. So we need to talk about that point spread. So if it's 90, it's usually one and a half. So plus 90 plus 45. So their swing is usually $90 to $225. All right. And so you say, well, what do you mean? Well, what I'm saying is, usually if they can offer 90, they're trying to at least make their money back, right? So if they offer 90, 9 times out of 10, they can go up to, if they get desperate enough, I've seen it, they'll come in and they'll be like, okay, 105, 115, 120, 190, whatever the case be. So let's do this. So 90, I remember it's 20, 80 working hours in a year. So that's, again, that's 187,000. So if you say, well, on that, that's cool, and you got to take out for insurance and so forth. Okay, well, I wouldn't have did the calculations. The calculations on on healthcare is anywhere for a single person. I'm only looking at this from a single perspective. Three to 600 a month, and I'm being generous with 600. Is really not that much. So you take that into consideration, and then take how much you want to put into your 401k and put that into consideration as you do this, and then what your taxes are going to be. So now this point spread, say they come in at like the 120 a year or 120 an hour. Now you move up to that. So now you're at 249, and remember, now you're starting, I think I think you're at 249, you're okay with that tax bracket. You may go into another tax bracket. It goes from point 0.7, or I mean 28% to 35% or something like that. I got to double check everything. Let's see. Yeah, read everything, ask questions, know who you are, know your bottom line. If you expect to grow in a position, make them aware of that, and make sure they agree. Make sure they're aware of that, and make sure they agree. Okay, so we can dive into that. Make sure they are aware of it. Okay, they may be aware and they may agree, but if it's not in black and white, if you didn't go out and search what you really need to get to that position, or the next position that you want to get to, it's just potato. So when I say the next position, and I'm going to discuss this next week, is the difference between a Linux admin versus a Linux engineer versus a system architect versus a CTO. And those are four different distinct paths and four different distinct set of skills. And at any point in time, you can gain those skills in a position if you are aggressive enough in that. So that's one thing. The other thing that I've found, and I'll get to that in a minute, Thomas. Another thing that I've found as well too is knowing what you really want to do. So if you are interviewing with a company and they got a good salary, but the job is mundane and you're doing the same thing over and over again, and that's all they got set for you, then understand that you're going to have to work outside of that company in order to get the skill sets that you want to have for the job that you may want to have in the future. So usually, what the average is, most people change jobs 2 to 3 times. Like they stay 2 years and then they switch jobs every 2 years, or they may switch job every year, depending on the contract, depending on what they see, and so forth. But that's usually how people hop around. Does it look bad? At this point, it can and it can't. It can if you say you just hopping around and you got the same skill sets, but it can look good if you hop around and you've increased your skill sets by certifications, or you've done some new stuff and you want to work in that particular field. Like you may be a Linux admin that's moving into security, and you want to do, and you've been taking classes on security and your current job doesn't offer that, so you got to change jobs. So those things are another thing that you do. As far as the non-compete, you can always take the road of, hey, in this, and because I do this, any thought, any thought, any idea, any program, any script, any magazine, any intellectual property from women in Linux is not owned by that company. I put that in everything. And so, like, anything that comes out of Women in Linux, they can't own it. If I write a script, they can't own it. And I just make sure I don't use the company's computer in order to do anything, but those are things that you want to add. Some people have walked away from jobs because of the non compete. So you can get a lawyer to look over that non compete to make sure that it's not something that you're signing your life away for. So just be careful about when you come up with ideas at work and you know it could be a hit, and you come up with it at that job and you sign this non compete, it could potentially be theirs even outside of the work. So just something that to think about when you're doing that. Some good health providers for contractors. You can look at the what every other company offers. Aetna, Cigna, Kaiser. They all offer the same thing to contractors. It's just you just be on an individual plan, so it's the same thing. Um, How many previous salaries are you willing to discuss with potential future employers? Actually, that's illegal now. You don't have to discuss those. You can actually turn away and say, let's not discuss that. Also, another thing not to discuss, because I get this all the time. I hear a lot of men, they don't get this. Do you have anything that will stop you from considering this job offer in terms of your personal life? In other words, are you married? Do you have kids? Would that stop you from taking this offer? And so I've seen that as well too. So you don't have to answer that. That's illegal. I've had the hair question, like, why is your hair this color? We're not willing to take that. We think you should change that, blah blah blah. That's another thing. So it's a touchy go subject. I just go under the mindset, you ask me something ridiculous, you got to pay for it. So that's just my mindset. You don't have to have that mindset, but that's my mindset. It says how many, no, as a Linux admin entry, what salary is about average? I know it varies based on location, but just a roundabout, you can go anywhere from It depends on if you got a clearance or not, or if that company is a small company and you live in California, whatever. But you can go anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000. I mean, easily. Yeah, so 50 to 100, maybe 90, really easily. So it's all on you. So this right here came over to me last week. All right. So the pay on this one was do 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 do. Is it on here? Oh yeah, there it is. Right here. 190 an hour for W2. All right. So this is what happens sometimes. So sometimes you'll get something sent over. Let's say 190 an hour. All right. So let's do the calculations on that. 190. Oopsie. 190 times 2080. All right, 395, 200. And remember, take out your taxes and your 401k and where you want to put your money and so forth and so on. All right. And also, as a contractor, you can always go back and ask, are they paying per diem on this particular job so you can get stuff tax free, money tax free. The way it comes out in two separate paychecks. So just things to keep in mind. All right. So you'll get a contracting position that's contract to hire. Now here's where it gets complicated, or it can't get complicated. Depends. You have to do this up front. The complication is this 190 an hour may be contract to hire, and you may be there for 6 months, right? And so in 6 months, let's do so 6 months is half of 2080. And then let's multiply that by 190. So in 6 months you can make 197,000, right? And you can figure out what you can do from there. But then here comes the conversion, right? And that conversion rate is what you really want to know. Because now when you go from being a contractor to W2, you're negotiating again. And I try to negotiate in the beginning as a contractor, and then when it's time to do a conversion. And that conversion is now they're going to come and they're going to offer you a W2 salary, and then they're going to offer their benefits. And a lot of people like to broadcast my benefits is worth $20,000. Well, as a single person, that's give or take for you. You could care less depending on your health. Or as a person who has kids, that's really important to you. So you have to weigh your options and remember now when you're doing this conversion and you're going converting to W2, remember you need to ask things like, okay, um, are there any bonuses? What are the benefits like? Most people are seeing you benefits up front. They already have it slotted in what they're going to do and what they're going to offer. They're seeing you that up front. Do you have free training? Do you have X, Y, and Z? So these are things that you need to think about when you're doing stuff as a contractor and it's going from contract to hire. In some instances, some companies don't care about you being a contractor. Um, they'll say you could be a contractor here forever, and the project is 5 to 10 years, and so you may be at that rate for 5 to 10 years. So it's you weighing your options. My philosophy is get your money up front and everything you want up front. Don't let anybody make a promise to you 6 months from now. My thought process. Any other questions, comments? Anybody got something they want to say? No? All right. All right. So let's go over to, we looked at that. I'll send you this link, the Vanguard link, where you could do an individual 401k. Vanguard, Charles Schwab. Um, I tried to check out Aerial Investments. I'm not sure. I spelled it wrong. I'm not sure if they have a solo 401k. This is I forget her first name. Hobson. I forget her name. Anyway, is it Lucas? Is that his? That's his wife, Tion? Melanie Hobson. That's her. Yeah, she was running this company here. So, but I forget. I don't know if they have a mutual, not a mutual, but a solo 401k, an individual 401k. You can always call them up and ask them about it or whatnot. But I was going with them because she was their, I think she was their CEO or CFO for them, uh, which was pretty cool. You know, first time you invest into someone who is minority owned as a company to do investments with. So that's why I was going with them. That's her right here. All right. So just a FYI. In terms of your uh, your non-compete, you could find a lawyer online or oh God, what is the lady name? I forget. She has a company where she can find a lawyer for you. I forget the link. It'll come to me and I'll post it on under the link for this YouTube. But anyway, it'll source through and say, hey, who's the best person for you to talk to about this non-compete, and have them go over the non-compete and the wording of it. And sometimes people will change the wording and sometimes they won't change the wording. If they don't change the wording, it's okay. You can just make an addendum to that actual document and then include exactly what you want to say and then let them go from there. So that stuff is important. Make sure you protect yourself in terms of intellectual property and everything else. And then the last other thing I could think about is when you're talking about uh, moving from company to company. Suppose, and I've had this situation, I'm in a city and then the company that I need to work for is 90 minutes away, and you're in a situation where you have to break a lease from one apartment complex to another one. I always look for someone else to pay that because I just don't want to pay it. So those are things that you can negotiate as well too, especially if they really really want it. So I would behoove everyone when you get an offer letter, sit down with someone else, talk it through with yourself, and then sit down with somebody else and go over things that you need. These words of advice have helped a lot of people. I've gotten emails and instant messages from people saying, "Hey, I was able to negotiate $15,000 more in my salary." I always do a swing. If you offer 100, I feel like you can offer 30,000 more or 15,000 more or whatever that magic number is. I always remember if you want to get 130,000, you may need to go up to 140 or 145,000 and let them talk their way down from there. Um, and just let them know you're open to discussion, and go from there. Never begin with this is my final offer and I'm standing by it unless you just really want to play hardball, and that's possible too. So anything that I might have missed, Nat, Lucy, Taz, thank you for coming. Thomas, anything I might have missed that you wanted to discuss? And I'm just going to stop recording now.